want to say that this is one of hundreds of meetings actually that have been taking place up and down the country over the last few weeks and months. And I think the situation, I just want to echo really what Sam said, isn't it absolutely very, very exciting times at the moment? I mean, you only have to look over the last few months and you kind of think, you know, you just almost can't really keep up with the situation, and you can't really, who would have predicted really that in just a few months after that absolutely devastating election result, general election result in May, that we'd be in a situation now where our mate, basically, our good kind of comrade and friend, Jeremy Corbyn, and would be leading the opposition on the front bench in Parliament. Now, I watched, you know, BBC News and whatever, and BBC Parliament, and you see the front bench sat there, and you just think, what, you know, am I like in a kind of dream world right now? You know, how has this actually happened? It's an absolutely surreal situation. But not only that, as Sam said, obviously, straight after the election result, just 6 weeks after, we organised an absolutely massive demonstration in central London. We had 250,000 people from all over the country come down to London and have a big demonstration against austerity. That was the biggest demonstration for many, many years in this country. And I think what we saw after that election was a very, very quick, immediate reaction and a complete change in mood amongst the whole population. I don't think anybody was expecting the Tories to gain a majority. I think most people actually weren't expecting the Tories to get back in government at all, let alone get a majority in Parliament. But I think this represents something that's been going on now for many, many years with Parliament and with the politics coming out of Westminster, that there's this growing kind of disconnect between what people actually feel and want and then what actually the politicians are saying in Parliament. There's a big disconnect there, and there's a growing sense of anger growing across the country. And I think the last few months has been absolutely clear that that's the case. And I think what's obviously quite an amazing thing is just as the kind of inevitable attacks started to mount up against Jeremy and against the new leadership of the Labour Party in the mainstream media, in and outside of Parliament, you know, you could see these attacks building up. And then it turns out David Cameron fucked a pig when he was in college to try and get into a secret society for millionaires. Now that just threw everything out the window again entirely, you know. So you just feel like we're in this completely mad period at the moment where kind of anything's really possible. And you get the sense that really it's not really going too well for the Tories right now. But I think for the first time in a very, very long time, we're on the front foot. The left is on the front foot, and that's exactly how it needs to be. That's exactly how it should stay. And I think it's got the government terrified. They're absolutely scared. Scared about what the future of, you know, what they're going to be able to achieve, the movement that we are going to be able to build up. And I think, but, however, obviously we still face a situation. All of this is fantastic news, but we still do face a situation where we have a Tory government for another 4.5 years, an absolutely vicious government, and a scared government that's going to try and push through as much as they possibly can and attack working people as hard as they possibly can over the next 4.5 years, which obviously is quite a terrifying situation for all of us. They're absolutely intent on ripping apart all of our public services and selling them off to private companies to run for profit. They're targeting the poorest and most vulnerable people in society. They're accusing people of being scroungers and these kinds of things. They've sanctioned benefits for disabled people, which actually the figures that were released just, I think it was 3 weeks ago now or something, which has caused directly, because of the government sanctioned people's benefits, it's led to the deaths of over 4,000 people. Now this is an absolute disgrace in one of the richest countries in the world, that the government can't even look after the poorest and most vulnerable in society. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but I saw it today in The Guardian that, I don't know, has anyone got any guess about what the government has given out, essentially in corporate welfare, to the companies, in tax breaks, in subsidies, and indirect aid, actually, to corporations. It's £93 billion a year. Now, that is enough to wipe out the deficit in one go. This is an absolute disgrace. You can see what priorities this government really has. And you only need to look at the refugee crisis as well, which I think is an absolute disgrace, and a disgraceful response from the government, from our government, who their initial response was they're willing to spend as much money as they possibly can to keep these people out on security, on extra fences, on these kinds of stuff, but no money on helping these people. The U-turn that they made in terms of letting 20,000 refugees in by the end of Parliament is pitiful when you compare that to the rest of European countries and these kinds of things. And also, especially when you consider actually that it's our government's had a hand in creating these crises, with wars, with meddling in other people's politics, and these kinds of things. It's an absolute disgrace what they're doing. Not only that, but over the last couple of weeks they've pushed through, or they're attempting to push through, the trade union bill to make it, and they're attempting to make it virtually impossible for us to take strike action, and impossible for us to organise in our workplaces and defend the rights of ourselves in our workplaces. Now, I think this is an absolute direct attack on, because they can see that there's a big mood growing in the country against them. There's a big, people are angry and want to take action, and they want to stop that and try and squash that as much as they possibly can. All this means, I think, that this movement that we're trying to build up, which is a broad-based movement with the Greens, with the left of the Labour Party, with those who have never been involved with a political party before, with the trade unions, the students, the pensioners, all of these things. We are uniting all of these people together in a big, mass, broad-based movement in opposition to this. And I think that movement's more important than ever now. It's great that we've got Jeremy on the front bench, but we can't stop there. We can't think, thank God Jeremy's there, we can all sit back and let him take on this fight for us. It's actually the opposite. Now the real fight begins. And that's what I think we need to keep in mind. I don't know if people saw the Andrew Marr show just after the Labour leadership election was announced, but for the first time in probably ever, I actually agreed with something that Michael Gove said. And he said this, he said, the reason why the election of Corbyn as the Labour leader is so dangerous is because his supporters want to have more street mobilisations and more street protests and all these kinds of things. And that's absolutely right. For the first time, he's absolutely right. And that's what we're going to do. We are going to mobilise in our workplaces, in our communities, on the streets for the biggest opposition to this government. And we've got to also recognise that it's the movement that got Jeremy where he is now, and it's the movement that's going to keep him there. But also it's the movement, not the Labour Party, that's actually going to kick this government out before 2020, and that's exactly what we need to do, I think. I also think the Tories made another big mistake. They made another big mistake by holding their annual conference in the north. They're holding their annual conference in Manchester, which starts this weekend. Manchester is a city with a fantastic history of struggle, of workers' rights, of people fighting for their rights and these kinds of things. It's a city that's got not a single Tory councillor or MP, so they made a very, very big mistake going there. And I would say the next big step for this movement going forwards is the big demonstrations, as Sam has said already, over the Tory party conference. We are organising with the TUC a mass demonstration on the day that conference opens. Everybody must be on that demonstration. Make sure you book up for the coaches. Tell your workmates, your friends, everybody that you know needs to be on that demonstration. I think we need to create the biggest possible opposition. We need to shut down Manchester on that day and make sure that they know that there's tens and tens of thousands of people in opposition to them there. But not only that, we are organising for every single day the Tories are there. We will be there too. We want to make sure, in fact, we're going up there a day early. We're going up there on the Saturday to make sure that they get the welcome that they deserve. When they come into Piccadilly Station, we're going to have a flash mob there. We're going to have protests all across the city and roadblocks and these kinds of things throughout the whole of Manchester as they are attempting to come in to start their conference. But we want the headlines that week not to be about what David Cameron said in his speech or what Ian Duncan Smith said and all of these kinds of things. We want the headlines to be that week how the anti-austerity protesters disrupted the Tory party conference and didn't let them get on with their business. And that's exactly the point of the week of action. So I would encourage everybody to if you can, come up a bit early, come up on this Friday or the Saturday. We've got a whole schedule of events going on, from the big national demonstration on the Sunday. We've got we're having direct actions, we're doing comedy events, we're doing music gigs. We're also doing protests every single day to make sure that the Tories know that they're met with opposition. This is our real moment, I think, the next big step for the anti-austerity movement has got to be this weekend. So do all you can to be there. Take time off work. Come join us. We've got a big sports hall where people are going to be staying overnight, and we've got, although it's only an hour down the road anyway, but it's going to be an absolutely fantastic week of action against the Tories. And I think what we want to create with that is to really show that every section of society is in opposition to what the Tories are doing. They are the minority, we are the majority, and we're going to make change happen. So thanks, and see you in Manchester.